Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. So Alpha 3.13 Evocati testing has begun. Let us check out the leaked patch notes. As always, these videos are made possible thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members. Thank you guys so much. If you do enjoy my content and would like to support the channel even further from as little as $1 a month, all of the links are in the description below. So as usual, the first patch does not contain all of the 3.13 features. These will roll out with each build as they become available. I will mention that the C2 and M2 are not coming with the very first release of 3.13 to the live build. They will come with a 3.13.x patch sometime between the release of 3.13 and the release of 3.14. It can be any time between them. That is unknown until the ship is ready. Anyway, testing focus for the initial 3.13 Evo patch is cave entrances, ship-to-ship docking, reputation UI, new quantum sensitive and timed delivery missions, the signed distance field shields, pushables tier 0, ship naming, and force reaction staggers. Now for vehicle naming, this is only going to be for the 600i, which will display the name and serial number multiple times on the hull. It will eventually roll out to the rest of the ships as they test this out. For push and pull, the initial implementation is to use these trolleys that we saw on Inside Star Citizen that can be found around the verse in places like space station cargo decks and underground facilities. The mounted guns can be found at also underground facilities and junk sites. For caves, it does mention that some of these new entrances will replace some of the existing cave entrances, so it does sound as though these original caves, some of them will remain, but their entrances may have been updated to these new entrances, alongside the addition of new caves as well. We have the new micro algae found along Hurston's shallow coastline. This is the Dagnus root harvestable that has been implemented with this build as well. For gameplay, the force reactions, it mentions that staggers are applied based on the severity of received force. The distance and duration of a stagger increases relative to the received force until the force is great enough to trigger a knockdown. Now if you stagger into a wall without a weapon equipped, the character will raise their hand or shoulder depending on the direction versus the surface to momentarily brace and halt themselves, which is quite cool. Finally, the 0 G Blackouts are now experienced by actors attached to something in the ship interior, so be that a usable, a ladder, operator seats or mounted weapons and so on, the character will also black out as well as the pilot. For shields, they have implemented the use of the particles using the signed distance fields to allow shields to more closely conform to the shape of the vehicle and allow for better visibility at distance, creating clearer visual cues that the shield is being damaged and its overall health. But do remember that this is not the full signed distance field shield functionality, it is just the visual effects for that system. Now they've also made quite a lot of improvements to the law system, which include proxy crimes when one person on board a ship commits a felony, and the option to hide notifications and criminal rating updates along with criminal record tracking. So if you didn't want those notifications popping up, you can hide them. They have also updated the unmonitored bounty marker when a bounty spends UEC, so in a shop for example, or remains in their mobiGlas for a period of time, and the marker will also update when the bounty destroys a ship or kills a player or AI. So although this will only currently apply to player bounties, it is nice to see more facets to the tracking system. Currently Stanton is just a little bit too small as there isn't a great amount of places for bounties to hide, but if they do come into monitored space, so basically if they leave Grim Hex, it'll alert the hunters based on these new factors. So with these new delivery missions, for quantum sensitive deliveries specifically, these are local deliveries, so not long distance travel, and the cargo will explode and damage the ship if you take it into quantum. So do not quantum if you're taking these missions on. For these timed missions, it sounds as though it is just a new addition to the current multi-box delivery missions, instead where each box will have a slightly varied timer, meaning that we will need to prioritize which box to drop off first. Now I am very glad to see some more variations to delivery missions, even if one of them is just more of a timed version of what we have already. I do enjoy the thought of these long distance travel ones, so I will probably take part in them most. For ships and vehicles, they have made many changes and updates to increase the visual standards of the Aegis Gladius, which include many level of detail, decal geometry, material and paint changes, inside the cockpit and on the exterior of the ship. Now this, I believe, is to bring the Aegis Gladius to the gold standard, being the first ship to reach that status, which will heavily be required for Squadron 42, but from here they will then apply all of these practices to all the other ships over time to get them all up to the same standard as well. For other ships, they have smoothed ramp collision proxies to help pushables and vehicles get pushed on them, so making it a lot smoother to load vehicles and trolleys onto ships, which is a big benefit. And they've also removed access to the Karak and Mole turrets when those ships deploy their landing gear or go to land. This is to prevent clipping issues when landed, which is good, because obviously you can use the actual turret on the Karak, the bottom turret, to lift the ship up when you move your weapons down, so it isn't really that immersive. Anyway, onto weapons and items. We have the inclusion of the new med pen, or med gun I presume is more accurate, but this replaces the previous functionality of immediately using an FPS consumable to heal or oxygenate. Now medical pens have to be equipped by pressing the consumable action, which is the C button by default, or by interacting with the pen and selecting the equip interaction, or of course using Inner Thought FPS consumable quick select. You can then use it on yourself by clicking the left mouse button, and after the pen is used it will automatically discard it. However, the medical guns can be holstered if you don't use it. So this brings these usables to the next step, like what we have seen with grenades, where you need to actively equip them and get them into your hand before you can use them, and not just spam the key to medicate. It would be great if we didn't discard these guns and we were able to reload them with either the Oxy pen or the med pen. I'm not sure how it's going to fully work yet, if it's going to still use med pens, and we'll have these other additions as well. I have not yet tested them personally, so we'll have to check that out when we get in. Anyway, moving on to Coretech. With this update, they have slightly changed the user folder structure to add a couple of extra layers of subfolders, and it will require controls and other settings to be moved to a new location if you save custom user folders. Do not worry about this yet. The location will be provided in the patch notes when it releases to the wider audience. There's also 10 major bug fixes, and some of these include they have fixed multiple asteroids and rocks in areas inside and out of Grim Hex where players could clip through them and get stuck. They fixed low gravity that was occurring inside some of the underground facilities. They've fixed multiple areas around seats on refinery decks where players were getting stuck. They've fixed multiple vis area issues around the New Deal in Lawville, fixed geometry around Miles Eckhart that players would also get stuck between, and they have fixed issues causing windows and glass displays to become blurry when the player is very close to them. Plus a couple of extras, and 1 client crash has been fixed and 3 server crashes fixed. So there you have it. That is the rundown of the initial leaked 3.13 Evocati patch notes. I am really excited to get playing 3.13, and I cannot wait just to get exploring these new caves. But as always, whenever there is a new Evocati build, I will cover these leaked patch notes and see what footage we can get hold of. So if that is something you are interested in following along with and find useful, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when my videos go live, tick that little notification bell. If you could do the channel a big favour and hit the thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. And if you want to talk more about Star Citizen, about 3.13 and the leaks, do come and hang out over on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers. Ryan, you are all more than welcome. Again, a major thank you to my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.